Hello and welcome back everybody to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the basic dimensioning rules and procedure for the guide key drawing. And as you recall, the guide key drawing was probably one of the harder orthographic drawings to produce in top front right side view, although it should be rather non-threatening and fairly easy to complete the dimensioning for now that we've seen some practice in the previous drawings that have been dimensioned, which were the control bearing, counterweight, and jig spacer. So let's take a look here in orthographic drawing problems and take a look at the layout of the guide key. I always like to take a look at these things first and see what we're dealing with, because I complete these in live time. I don't practice this ahead of time. I like to do this so you see my reactions as I complete the drawings, and you get to see my critical thinking process as I do the work. The 13 dimension and the 51.5, I like where they're positioned. I may keep those exactly where they are because the 13 will be out of the way of being placed between two views. I need the overall thickness, which I have here, and even the placement of the 57 looks very good to me. And I may keep that exactly where it is on the top view. The 13, 29, and 13, 24, 15, and so on, those are all being projected along the top view. And this is going to give us a flat perspective of two-dimensional awareness. We're going to see this surface, and this surface. And these surfaces, so I think I'm going to want to place these on the front view, again, where they're going to be in profile. The 47.5 looks very good as well. I like the position of that one. This 9.8 is going to have to be dimensioned in a different location because the way it's shown right now, it's going to be in hidden detail view. And I think that's all I'm going to talk about right now. So I'm going to get started. And I need to make sure ortho's turned on because I noticed it's not. So I'm going to left click, activate it, and I'm going to begin. So I talked about the 13 dimension. I'll start with that one. So I'll grab linear dimension. I'm going to dimension from endpoint to endpoint. And you're very familiar with the dimension spacing by this time. And we're also going to dimension the 51.5. Not sure it's going to fit. And I have the option to move it later. It fits. It's a little tight, but it is acceptable. So I'll leave it there for now. Moving on, repeat dim linear, endpoint to endpoint. Repeat dim linear. And I need to leave one out of a chain, right? Because if I run this dimension, this is now the same as an overall, right? Except I don't want to have to go through the hassle of having to add up every one of these dimensions. So the way it's shown on this drawing, they're actually including the 15 here instead of here. I've just decided to basically chain them all up. So either one is correct. I mean, I could have done it like this, but I've chosen to just chain them all from one side up until the end of the 24. So I'll leave that the way it is. Notice how I didn't just bring these 12 millimeters from this horizontal line. I actually decided to chain them up with these dimensions. This looks a lot better, keeping all of these in line with one another. I could bring this dimension down to here and then come up 12, but of course it still is on the part, right? It doesn't look very good. It's better to chain them up like this in one row, right? And this is the benefit of my experience that you're getting right now. Oh, and this dimension's got to go, right? Because I talked about that. Okay, so we got to leave one out of a chain. We do have to include the overall dimension. There is no overall length dimension included, so we're going to add that now. I'm going to add it to the top of the top view. And that fits. So we're doing well. The 9.8 dimension here, it's very limited in where we can place it. We can't show it on the top view because we have no perspective of the depth. So we know it has to go on the front view or the right side view. So what is going to be correct? This one didn't quite fit, did it? We're going to leave that one the way it is for now. Let's run this one from here to here, between views. Now, the 51.5, right? Now, we can't run, we could run the dimension like this, but this would be very, very sloppy. You know, running it from here and then bringing it out 12 millimeters. And the reason for this is it's sloppy to have these extension lines travel all the way over through the part and cutting through the part unnecessarily. Because we have talked about placing dimensions between views is acceptable when required, and it is acceptable here. This is the best position for that dimension. We can't keep this dimension because we cannot dimension to a hidden detail line. So this one must be erased. This one is poor practice. And this is the one we want. Now, would I be able to fit this into the in between the arrows? Yes, I could. Whoops. I just want to make sure that it's centered. Midpoint is on. I want to move it back to here and make sure that I'm coming out 12 millimeters, because when you manipulate the location of the value like I've done just now, it can throw out the spacing that you've picked. So we're just going to massage that a bit just to keep these arrow lines, you know, as consistent as we can. Of course, I want to hit escape, but I can't because it's going to throw out the video. Anyway, that's good enough like that. We've got the 13 dimension here where it should be, not to the hidden line. We've got the overall. What else do we have? Well, we have to know the overall width. So we can place that dimension here, like I talked about at the beginning of the video. And the 47.5. Let's run a couple of these dimensions. And we'll pick the one we like best. So there's one here. We could also run one here. Okay, what have we done? We've over-dimensioned again, but on purpose, because we want to see what is more correct. So which one do you think I should keep? Should I keep this one or this one? Think about it for a moment. If you selected keep this one, I would agree with that. The reason is we're dimensioning to a profile here, right? We can actually physically see the open space. Here, that surface is butted up against this one in 2D, and again, there's no real profile view here. So I would be dropping this dimension. All right, what else do we have to do here? We need to know the thickness of this part here. We know that the larger one is 51.5. And I'm going to be inclined to put it on the right side view along with the 9.8, again, where it's not congested with the larger block. So again, this is another one of those times, right? So we can, we could do it like this, which, is correct. We've talked about dimensions being in what's called the gray zone. A lot of dimension placement is in the gray zone, meaning, you can break a rule or two, but dimensioning to a hidden detail line is definitely something you should never do. We would call that a black and white rule. Having dimensions sitting on the part, again, that's a black and white rule, meaning black and white meaning there's an absolute correct and an absolute incorrect. With a gray area, which is the shade between black and white, we talk about placing dimensions between views, right? And we can get away with this if it makes sense to do so, as we see here it does. So let's run the 32 from here to here. Let's go out 10. And that's still okay, right? We're not crowding the right side view, and so if this dimension was sticking really close to the right side view, I would say it's unacceptable. But we're 10 millimeters from the first dimension, and we are 18 millimeters from the right side view. So that's okay. So we're going to drop this dimension and erase it. We don't have very many dimensions, do we? A lot of the dimensions are on the front view, which is kind of where most of the action is happening. We are going to get a dimension going here on the right side view. We need to have the 60 degrees listed. So we're going to have to go to angular dimension, and the right side view is the only view where we can actually show this. So we're going to run a dimension from here to here, right? And we can, again, it's not something that we can really pull off the part, an angular dimension like this. We can get away with leaving it on the part because it's going to be too large if I have to pull it way off the part, as you can see, right? Because of the larger block here. I mean, we could have it like this, which would be acceptable as well. This, not so much, right? So it's either going to be like this or like that. So I think I'll leave it like this, just to kind of keep up with what we've learned about keeping dimensions off of the part, right? We're going to maintain that rule that I've taught you. And everything fits, right? So it doesn't really leave me room to put the 51.5 on the right side view, nor the 57 on the top of the right side view, but everything seems like it's well balanced like this. And I'm pretty happy with how it's turned out. Now, there is one more dimension that I've forgotten that they include here, which is the 54. And we can include it. So we'll go linear dimension. We'll go from here to here. Snap that dimension in line and then pull it up. You guessed it, 10 millimeters. Still leaves us plenty of room to the top view, 18 millimeters like we've seen elsewhere. If it was, less than 12 millimeters to the next view, I would say it would be too crowding. But again, this dimension is better understood on the profile. We also could run the dimension from here to here down, and that would be okay as well. Maybe we'll try that as well, see what that looks like. It's going to be very crowded now because we have too many 54 dimensions. But what does that look like, right? If I get rid of this one, I can have it like this. What's the advantage, really? I mean, it's typically in the same position. It's just, 16 millimeters, away from the 24 instead of being just 10. So if you ask me, I think it's better just to keep that one chained up from the front view. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to erase this one, and I'm going to call it a day. So that is how I see proper dimensioning for the guide key. Now I need to select all the dimensions, put them on the dimensions layer like that, and then lastly fill the title block in. Guide key. It all fits today except it's not centered. So let's go to our move tool. Just move it a little to the left, make it a little more centered. Drawn by. You put your name there. Date. 03/30/21 is the day I'm working on this. Scale is 1:1, 1:1, and drawing number is 101, not 0, whoops. O, as in open, for our open level course. And dash, and this is our 7th drawing. Completed. And this is the last one of the orthographic drawing problems. I'm just going to hit save one last time, and then I'm going to be able to upload this to the assignment folder Dropbox. And that concludes our lessons for basic dimensioning of orthographic drawings. I hope you've enjoyed the drawing problems, drawing them, completing the dimensions. I hope you enjoyed, watching my thought process as I complete them, because, I don't have these things figured out, as you know. I like to kind of do them in front of the camera, and then you can kind of see any changes I make as necessary, right? It's kind of neat to kind of see how I figure it out, and really to know that there is a little bit of critical thinking involved in completing these exercises. So I thank you for watching, and I thank you for completing the work. And again, if you have a question and you need to know an answer, please feel free to get my attention, and I'm glad to answer questions. Take care for now. Have a great day.